The jungle was a living, breathing entity, a vast, relentless beast that devoured the weak and tested the will of the strong. Its dense canopy swallowed the sky, allowing only slivers of light to pierce through, casting eerie shadows that danced on the damp earth below. The air was thick, suffocating, filled with the scent of rot and the cries of unseen creatures. Roots twisted like serpents beneath their feet, threatening to trip them with each weary step. Javier adjusted the frayed strap of his backpack, his dark eyes scanning the treacherous path ahead. He had been walking for weeks, his fingers numb, his muscles aching, his spirit worn thin. But the pain didn't matter, not anymore. The only thing that mattered was moving forward, because stopping meant dying. Lucía walked a few paces behind him, her small frame weighed down by exhaustion as much as by the battered pack strapped to her shoulders. Her black hair clung to her forehead, damp with sweat, and her once bright eyes had dulled, clouded by weariness and hunger. She no longer had the strength to talk, her usual quiet resilience dimming with each passing day. Javier glanced back at her, his chest tightening. He didn't know her well, not yet, but something about her determination, her refusal to break, had drawn him in from the moment they met at the makeshift camp at the jungle's edge, thrown together by fate, clinging to the fragile hope of a future beyond this green hell. There was no logic in the bond that had formed between them, only something raw and unspoken. They were an unlikely pair. Javier, a young Venezuelan fleeing economic collapse and political turmoil, and Lucía, a young Ecuadorian woman escaping domestic violence and poverty. Their languages were similar, yet their pasts had been worlds apart. But here, in this hellish passage, they had found an unspoken connection, a silent understanding forged through suffering and sacrifice. Their journey was perilous, spanning multiple countries, with the ultimate goal of reaching the United States. They had already crossed hostile borders, evaded armed patrols, and now faced the most treacherous part of their route. The Darien Gap, a graveyard disguised as a jungle. A vast, roadless jungle connecting Colombia and Panama. It was infamous for its lawlessness, venomous creatures, and the merciless terrain that had claimed countless lives before them. The jungle showed no mercy. Days turned into weeks, and the journey became an endless battle against the elements. Rain hammered down without warning, drenching them to the bone, turning the earth to sucking mud. The nights were worse, frigid and endless, filled with the piercing screams of animals and the whispers of unseen predators. Every step forward was a gamble against starvation, disease, and the ever-present threat of betrayal. They had already witnessed horrors that would never leave them. Bodies bloated and left to rot, skulls half buried in the mud, the whispered warnings of those who had barely made it through. Every night, as they huddled beneath the twisted roots of ancient trees, the jungle came alive with the screams of those who hadn't been so lucky. The group they traveled with grew smaller and smaller, thinned by exhaustion, by fever, by despair. One by one, people disappeared, some lost to the jungle, some simply collapsing where they stood, their bodies swallowed by the undergrowth, never to be seen again. Lucía's strength waned with every step. Her legs trembled, her breath came in ragged gasps, and the fever burned through her like a relentless flame, draining what little life she had left. Each stumble was a silent cry for help, and every time she faltered, Javier was there, his arms catching her before the earth could claim her. He never looked away, never left her side. With quiet devotion, he offered her water, whispered reassurances, and shouldered her pack without a word, carrying not just her burdens, but the weight of his own unspoken fears. The others urged him to leave her behind. The jungle had no patience for the weak, and survival demanded sacrifice, they said. But Javier refused. He couldn't. Not when she had become the reason he still fought forward. One night, beneath the twisted ribs of an uprooted tree, she clung to his hand, her fingers cold and frail, barely more than a whisper against his skin. "Javier," she breathed, her voice so soft it almost vanished into the night. "I don't think I can make it." "You should go," she said. His chest tightened, pain lodging itself deep in his heart. "Not without you," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. She tried to smile, but it wavered, lost in the fever that dulled the light in her eyes. "You're stubborn," she said, a fragile attempt at teasing, but he heard the weariness beneath it. He exhaled shakily and pressed his forehead against hers, closing his eyes as if he could will his strength into her failing body. "You're stronger than you know," he whispered, his voice breaking, hoping, praying, she would believe it. But the jungle had no mercy. The fever took her in the night. By morning, her body was still, her fingers cold in his. The others had already left, their survival instinct outweighing whatever humanity remained. Javier sat there, staring at her lifeless form, numb. The weight of loss pressed down on him, suffocating, crushing. He dug her grave with his bare hands, his nails splitting against the hard earth. The jungle didn't allow time for grief, but he carved out a space for it anyway, marking the spot with a crude cross of broken branches. Then he sat beside her, unmoving, as the jungle whispered around him. Time lost meaning. Hunger gnawed at him. Thirst burned his throat, but he didn't care. What was the point? He had lost his home, his family, his country, but in her, he had found something that had made all of that suffering bearable. And now, she was gone. When the jungle finally claimed him, it did so in silence. Its endless green arms closing around him like a mother cradling a lost child. He lay beside her, his breath slowing, his body sinking into the earth. The vast wilderness consumed both into its depths, as it had countless others before. But beneath its towering trees, where the world felt forgotten, their story endured. Two souls intertwined, their love a flickering flame against the endless dark, refusing to be extinguished.